What's good, guys? It's Yoshiken, no BS. You already know. Time to talk about why Re Zero Season 2 is a damn masterpiece that we do not deserve. Mostly part 2. You can watch my part 1 video here. Remember that these are my thoughts and opinions. You can disagree. Watch the whole thing, guys. Trust me, you will not regret it. And please remember to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed. It really helps and I appreciate every single one of you guys. So go and grab a snack and enjoy the show. So without further ado, let's dive right into this bit. Before we get into the juicy stuff of this season, let's just get my initial simping out of the way. Can we please appreciate White Fox for consistently putting out 30-minute episodes? I repeated this like a broken record in my Twitter, but it always blew me away because of the damn passion put into this anime. And on top of that, like always, the ending and opening? Is that a myth? Get it? Cause myth and roid. Shown like 3 times, just like in part 1. The ending looks gorgeous, and they didn't show the visuals as much as they could've. God, I feel bad for whoever animated that, man. Plus, pure 30 minutes of content and consistency in the visual. Once you sit down and think about it, we do not deserve White Fox. Woo! Alrighty then, with all that out of the way, let's get into the details of why this season is a godsend. Let's start with the 2 best boys. Part 2 immediately kicks everything off with Otto and Subaru, and Otto trusting what Subaru told him, which is really sweet since that's how much he trusts Subaru. Knowing it seems like ridiculous shit, Subaru confronts Roswaal almost immediately after talking to Otto, being a damn savage, and tells Roswaal that he will get the ending he wants. And Roswaal tells him how greedy his decision is. And that leads us to Otto versus Garfield. Otto is such a good boy. He went so damn far to be able to put a fight against Garfield, risking his own life so many times. When I was watching this, I was like, why the f is he going so damn far? Otto being super clever. Like, damn Garfield, you taking L's left and right, bro. And with his backstory, Otto is best boy, I'm telling you. We get to see what blessing he has and how he bugged Garfield. He was a small, innocent boy. We get to see everything from his unfortunate childhood, how he used his blessing, why he became a merchant, to how Subaru saved him back in Season 1, which explains why he's so devoted to Subaru. Otto's soul language can be compared to a mental illness in real life. The pain Otto must have gone through being an outcast, not being able to relate to others his age due to his protection, eventually getting called a soda bug freak. His parents struggled and tried their best to understand why he was abnormal, making them think Otto didn't love them. Later on, he was finally able to tell them how he feels through a letter. The emotional toll that he carried since he was born was lifted. Him getting saved back in Season 1 is much more impactful after learning his past, after seeing how crappy his whole life has been. Before, it was just a comedy relief moment. He cries every time he's reborn, the first time being his birth, then his parents' understanding, and now this time being the third after a close encounter with death, finding his reason for living and his purpose. A lot of his scenes made me relate with him a lot. And damn it, I've said it a million times, he's best boy, and I love him so much now. Obviously, Otto wasn't gonna be able to beat Garfield on a 1v1. So our girl, Ram, came to the rescue. Just imagine how OP she would be if he didn't lose her horn. Jesus. After all the action, Garfield finally caught up to where Subaru was. Subaru facing Garfield took balls. He knew how powerful Garfield was and still talked the way he did. All because he knew that's how he needed to beat him. Subaru was hitting all the right targets. mentioning his past and how he was running away from everything. This was more evident when Garfield just straight up punched him and Subaru just took it like a champ. Let's go, Joseph! And out of nowhere, a gigantic hand bone, his sloth witch factor, came to play, which was crazy with Real Eyes popping off in the background. We see how much Garfield was affected by his mom leaving Sanctuary, how much he didn't want to admit it as well. He then reveals later on that his mother died right after she left. After their fight, Garfield went on to face his past after running away from it for such a long time. He confronts his mother and relives the moment before she left, even though he was still in denial and trying to prevent what was happening in front of him. The Frederica of the past speaks to him until he finally opens his mind and willingly accepts the past that was haunting him and keeping him inside Sanctuary like a cage. Garfield was finally able to accept the love her mother had for their family, not because she ran away from them to be happy. What he was trying so desperately to forget, what he tried to remove from his life. It all became a part of him and changed him for the better. We then figure out that this boy is 14 years old. What the fuck? This 14-year-old ripped as fuck, dude. And he started calling Subaru boss. That is adorable. Not going in detail right now of what happens with the other characters, but we see Garfield joining Subaru with his second encounter with Roswaal, advising him to give up. Roswaal refused to give up, so Subaru and gang had to go pull up to the mansion. Apparently, Garfield could have left Sanctuary whenever he wanted to. Really goes to show how his past burdened and locked him up in Sanctuary. Afterwards, we see Subaru barely arrive in time, looking like a badass saving Petra, and then we see Garfield reunite with Frederica, which was so adorable. Now came the fight. The animation, the soundtrack was super intense without anyone saying a word for a really long time. It was done excellently. The shot where Garfield and Elsa were going at it while the fire was in the background was... We get some backstory on Elsa and how she got that horrible kink of hers. Also that she's a vampire? And when the climax of the fight was near, they were biting each other and getting hella kinky. Again, the fucking OST. I love Suahiro too much, man. Anyways, Garfield goes ham and squashes Elsa, the end. Okay, but seriously, this is barely the tip of the iceberg. And boy, prepare yourselves, cause now we getting into the juicy shit. Just kidding, I ain't talking about Emilia in this video. But what Subaru got in part 1 was what Emilia got in part 2. Massive development. I'm going to talk about Emilia in a completely separate video to give her character the justice she deserves. I'm an Emilia simp again, boys. Sorry, Echidna. So I'm gonna save all that I have to say about Emilia in that video from the very beginning. So look forward to it. Emilia's past gave us so much insight on the world of Re Zero and on characters besides Emilia. We see how different the trials of the past are. Emilia's most evidently the hardest. At first, we didn't see anything crazy, except small Emilia f***ing Beetlejuice. And finally, Emilia, but MILF version. We see how from the get-go, Emilia was heavily restricted to do almost anything. She barely had any freedom, just like in the present. We learned that she's Satala's daughter, and that Fortuna was her aunt. There's a lot of things we still do not know about Emilia, but this alone gave us enough to understand her character much more. Without getting too into detail, we see that ever since her childhood, Emilia's been acquainted with spirits, which gives reason for her being a spirit user. We see that how in terms of innocence per se, Emilia hasn't changed that much. A detail that makes sense since she was frozen for a long time. Beetlejuice and Fortuna had an interesting relationship going on. Beetlejuice was a bishop at the time, and it's easy to make the assumption that the cult wasn't evil. Obviously because he was delivering the goods to the village, and an obvious personality change from the Jews we're used to. As we get into her past more and more, we see how Emilia kept being a curious little bitch and kept on peeping on Fortuna and Juice. This eventually led to Juice meeting Emilia. Beetlejuice kept on repeating, "I don't deserve this after the sins I've committed." It makes me think, what kind of things has Beetlejuice done before going crazy? We can see that Emilia has had an immense importance all of her life. Albeit her being the witch's daughter and other connections she has, this has made her character much more understandable to us viewers. Fortuna and Juice were Emilia's parent figures, and Fortuna taught her the importance of promises. And now we understand why promises are so damn important to her. It was literally engraved onto her when she was much younger. These are the kinds of things that kept me super engaged with the backstory. Things like seeing a past character in such a dramatically different way instantly grabs the viewer's attention, making us wonder and wonder until we get the answers that we want. Beetlejuice's character as a whole really changed with this backstory. Something that just straight up made me smile was the scene where Emilia killed one of Juice's fingers in season 1. She was crying, and sure, we can interpret that she just doesn't like killing others or doing any harm to other people, and that's why she cried. But if we look at it from a different perspective, it's obvious that it was her inner feelings for Beetlejuice, not memories, since they were locked away. Now to get into Regulus's appearance. This dude is getting huge build up, bro. I remember getting so much goosebumps when I saw the white robe and the damn cell trip. Who wouldn't be like, oh shit? I just remember being in disbelief and just repeating, is this actually happening? Shit like this makes me smile constantly, man. Just seeing the plot connect with things that we've seen long beforehand is just, We get to see more of how OP Regulus is, and how much influence he's had in our past characters. These things make him more and more villainous and powerful. Him being the reason some of our characters have had a big change. Fights happen and action happens. And then the Witch of Vanity, Pandora, appears. Her character introduction was amazingly done. She appeared behind Regulus, and without saying a word, we can tell that she has some authority behind the witch's cult as a whole. It seemed like such a minor detail, but it's so well done. There's a lot of mystery to her character, since the past is all we have at the moment. We just see that she has the ability to control see things, dude. Her design has a very omnipotent feeling behind it. She literally looks and acts like a god. I wouldn't be surprised. She gives me heavy Bondru from Made in Abyss vibes too. Although her ability isn't explicitly said to us, we understand that she has a huge importance in the world of Re Zero. We see how Beetlejuice got promoted to Sloth, and how he got the witch factor, which was very poggers by the way, and how he began to get a screw loose afterwards. There's a lot of questions that I have when seeing this scene, especially after Regulus's reaction. Did any other archbishops go through this? Is Regulus just that powerful and didn't have to go through something like this? Etc, etc. Hopefully these things get answered in future arcs. But as of right now, I'm just having fun speculating, man. We then see how Regulus killed Pandora and tries to kill her over and over again. And we get to know more of his personality. Until Pandora just went, okay, I gotta undo you real quick. The scene where Pandora makes Regulus disappear has such good direction. Just how all the noise disappears and the angle was shot at indirectly tells us that the damage has been undone before it was stated. The season as a whole had a direction. Like a props to you, Watanabe. Emilia starts to run to the outside of the forest to escape. Up until her little innocent mind thought she could stop the fighting by opening up the seal. When my man sacrificed himself and went off with a smile to the Black Serpent, another villain the series is building up, she encountered spirits that led her to the seal. Kinda sus, huh? Pandora gets there and tries to manipulate Emilia into opening the seal up, in which she refused to do because of the promise she had with Fortuna, something that she really appreciated later on. And when Beetlejuice pulled up, Pandora manipulates everything to make it seem like he killed her, in reality killing Fortuna. And now we start to see the roots of his insanity. Because of what happened, we see why he started repeating love so much and justifying everything he does with love. Emilia starts going nuts, and the whole place freezes, finally ending her trial. I repeated this over on my Twitter when I reacted to the episodes, but if you have not watched the Frozen Bond OVA, just do it already. It really adds onto this part of the anime. It's really an incomplete puzzle if you miss out on it. Emilia having her memories sealed off makes complete sense as to why she wasn't able to accomplish the trial before, something that young Sue realized when he went to talk to Puck. Emilia's present and future trials don't nearly have as much depth as the past one, but they were pretty nice. The present trial being somewhat the parent and child of Emilia, but way less impacting. Damn this woman. And Emilia almost seamlessly going through it. The future trial having heavy foreshadowing. To save the juicy Emilia moments for her video, I'm not gonna talk about what happened afterwards with her. So with that being said, let's get into the big boy, young Ross. This man, bro. Roswaal had insane insight on his character. From being an extremely mysterious character in season 1 to one of the best characters in the anime, Roswaal's whole character is incredibly complex in a very good way. To start, I'm gonna go into both of his interactions with Subaru. We have to admire how much of a badass Roswaal is. We have to remember that in his eyes, Subaru is drastically changing in just a couple of days. Him accepting that, knowing who he is without question, speaks volumes of his wisdom. Roswaal tries to push his beliefs onto Subaru, telling him that he needs to sacrifice to protect the ones he truly cares about. We can obviously see how shocked he was to see someone push away his values and beliefs the way Subaru did, to which he kept telling Subaru how greedy he was being. On his second encounter with Subaru, Roswaal told Subaru that bringing an unknown piece will not change the outcome, them being Otto and Garfield. There were so many awesome shots in the second encounter, some examples of them being Roswaal saying, "My soul burns," when we are looking at the characters from the Fire's perspective, and when he says, "We are the same," which puts his and Subaru's face together. These things add so much to the scene, although they seem minor in hindsight. Roswaal believes in others' weaknesses, depending on it, while Subaru believes in others' strengths. We can see how Garfield followed Subaru because he needed him to be strong instead of what Roswaal wanted, for him to be weak. Subaru and Roswaal are in many ways similar, being different faces of the same coin kind of thing. They seem like the complete opposite of each other, but the way their mind works has a lot of similarities, even if they have different values and beliefs. Roswaal persists on what he believes on, rejecting Subaru's proposal on giving up. We also see for the first time that he put on his suit again in his second encounter, in a way showing that he'll fight Subaru without holding back. Later on, we get a dedicated episode to the sanctuary before it becomes what it is, around 400 years ago. Roswaal is super innocent in those days. We see how he got saved by Echidna. Damn it, Ecchi Donut, stop being ecchi for a second. And she became his teacher, to the point where she was the only thing Roswaal was seeing. When we see this, him defending Echidna back in part 1 starts making sense. Roswaal, Ryuzu, and Beatrice all had a connection with Echidna, her being the teacher/mother figure to all of them. When the Devil of Melancholy came and basically destroyed the relationship that characters had, we see how Beatrice tries to use her room manipulation power to try to delay things, how Ryuzu got in the crystal, and how Roswaal was affected by all of this. They haven't said much about this dude, but by the way he talks and looks, this man merged with Roswaal, bro. Anyways, we later on get to see the aftermath, which was Beatrice and Roswaal getting the Tomes of Wisdom and protecting the things they were assigned to protect. So, let's talk Ram. Ram and Roswaal's relationship is very similar, yet insanely different to that of Subaru and Ram's. Going back to the coin analogy, Ram decides to help Subaru purely because she wants to save Roswaal from his taintedness and the illusions brought with the Tome of Wisdom. In many scenes throughout Season 2, Ram seems like a complete robot, doing whatever Roswaal tells her to do. Roswaal saw Ram as the perfect pawn, but we can see that that's not the case at all. Ram has a will of her own. Even if she says she'll do anything Roswaal tells her to do. We see how throughout Season 2, and basically 1, Roswaal is a slave to the Tome of Wisdom, living to do what it tells him to do, losing a will of doing things on his own. Believing that this would bring him back to Echidna, he carelessly did everything written in the book, no matter how bad it was. And with time, this began tainting his soul to doing things as extreme as ruthlessly burning a whole civilization and then bringing the kids to live with him. Roswaal lost his sense of what's good and what's bad. When he went outside to greet Emilia after she completed the first trial, he came up to Ram in a way that seemed like he was going to kill her, which he has done before in part 1. Emilia notices this, and this starts a hefty conversation. Roswaal was obviously shocked to see Emilia as confident as she was, knowing that Subaru said something to her for her to be like that. She starts telling her that she's repeating Subaru and the things she says and does, telling her that Subaru just said those things to his advantage, all to achieve his own goals. Roswaal thinks that Subaru swept Emilia up by her feet, telling her all these nice things and giving her hope in a purely positive way. Emilia tells this man how it is. Roswaal was getting in a state of confusion. To see Emilia change so much on her own and to see it because she was doing it for herself. Mostly surprised that Subaru said the things that he said to her. I mean, when Emilia told him that he was gonna help her become ruler because she wants to, I was like, but finally, let's talk about that Ram and Roswaal fight. Holy shit, bro. This fight scene had so many amazing moments. And little details like Puck telling Roswaal, let's pick up where we left off, being a nod to their previous fight. This was Ram's major refusal to what Roswaal told her to do, barely not making it in time to stop Roswaal from activating the snowstorm. They fight. The animation and OST, you already know. But fast forward to the climax of the fight, Ram tells Roswaal that she loves her despite burning her village when she was younger. The way the confession felt could be compared to From Zero, Ram's voice actress having an OST in the scene, and the way Ram was doing what she was doing to make Roswaal truly happy, instead of following the orders he thought would make him happy. It's just like what Rem did with Subaru when she refused his proposal to escape with him. She got what she wanted, to burn the Tome of Wisdom. Ram wouldn't have been satisfied with just killing Roswaal, despite having many chances to do so, finally liberating Roswaal from the shackle that he had for centuries, saving Roswaal even if it meant her death. When Ram was at the verge of death, we see Roswaal in a state of regret and see him completely destroyed after losing the book. Imagine having your life's purpose and dedication disappear in an instant. That's what Roswaal was feeling in this moment, giving up the moment the book was burned. To reincarnate himself over and over, and to get whatever possible chance to see Echidna, he was willing to do anything, even if it took him centuries. Beatrice and Roswaal were both burdened with destinies and fate, a purpose given to them by the one they looked up to. For something that they've been believing for years to be taken away, our characters had to put up a fight. So with that, let's talk about Beatrice. I honestly can't explain to you guys how much I love this anime. This fucking episode. I remember the moment I saw the name, the goosebumps I got was... Beatrice is easily one of the most underrated Re Zero characters. She really does not get the attention that she deserves. Her character was filled with mystery from the moment she was introduced in season 1. She might have looked like, ha ha ha, 500-year-old lolly, but she had an immense story within her. Get it? Because she's in a library? As we saw with her backstory, Echidna was Beatrice's mother figure and basically all she had for a while. Echidna gave Beatrice the mission to protect the Forbidden Library until that person came to rescue her, as well as giving her a blank tome of wisdom. Since it wasn't explicitly explained in the anime on why Echidna did these things, it's kinda dope that it was left as a rhetorical question. It could have been Echidna being like, do whatever you want, or that Subaru actually ended up being that person. Again, I'm just speculating. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. We then get to know that she was envious of Emilia because she was the one that Puck was around with the most, the spirit that got along with Beatrice the most. And because of that, Beatrice avoided Emilia to not hurt her, which explains why she was so distant with the rest of the people in the mansion. When the attack on the mansion was happening, not only did Beatrice know it was Roswaal's doing, but she was willing to die in that moment. She knew that Roswaal went to Sanctuary to settle the score with Echidna. Subaru had to go extra just to be able to get into the library, as he was being kicked out several times. But when Subaru was finally able to get in and say a couple of words, Beatrice asked him if he was that person. He just straight up said no. Subaru could have been selfish here and just said, yeah, I'm that person. Come with me. And just left. But that would not have made either person truly happy. It shows how much Subaru has matured since the beginning of the series. Because back then, he would have absolutely been immature and rushed things to get her out of there. Beatrice even admits that she would have believed him, even knowing it was a lie. It really shows how desperate she was. Beatrice lived for Echidna's sake for 400 years, bro. Anyone would get that frustrated. So she just blasted him out of the door. She sent Subaru to the entrance of the mansion, basically telling him to just leave her to die, which he obviously didn't do. Subaru went through hell until he found the last hidden door. He risked his life getting to that final door, and he had faith in Beatrice that she would open it and let him in at the brink of death. He shut his eyes and opened the door. And then he encountered Beatrice for the last time. The conversation starts off with Beatrice just being a confused lolly, asking why he was so persistent. Subaru kept on telling her that he may not be that person, but it doesn't matter. He still wanted to make her happy. Beatrice just kept on saying the same thing over and over again. But you're not that person. Beatrice repeating that person is realistic. She wouldn't just have accepted what Subaru was offering instantly. Again, 400 years of fulfilling a purpose, bro. Like with Emilia, Subaru kept on being persistent and repeating it as many times as possible without being unrealistic. Beatrice wanted to give up. She wanted to convince herself that all hope was lost because even though she desperately wanted it, she knew that person would never come. Despite her pushing Subaru away now and multiple times throughout the series, she still lets him in the end, deep down wanting him to come and save her. Subaru knows how kind Beatrice is, helping him when he was having nightmares in season 1 and other things. Beatrice being in front of the door throughout the whole series is as if she did subconsciously, as Subaru calls out, like she wanted someone to take her out. Subaru was not being what Beatrice wanted him to be the person who saves her from loneliness or anything like that. He even tells her that he knows he's useless to her, that she does not need him at all to live a normal life. Yet despite that, Subaru kept on pushing. He wasn't trying to save her. He was trying to get her to save him from the guilt, from not truly saving her, and from the sadness that would come if she wasn't there with him. That he'll make her happy, not by being that person, but by being Subaru. When it seemed she was convinced, she starts telling him that just like the rest, he'll just leave her. It isn't something she's afraid of. It's something she's lived through in the past. Normally, people would start thinking all of the bad things that could happen theoretically. Things that they fear the most. But in this case, it's something that Beatrice knows will happen. She knows of the sadness she'll feel afterwards, the suffering of losing a loved one. She does not want to experience that again. Subaru tells her that yes, he may leave her, and he definitely will. But it didn't matter. Just because he had a more limiting lifespan did not mean he could not make her happy in that time. He tells her that instead of fearing a goodbye that may happen, she should live with him throughout a guaranteed lifetime of tomorrows. Even if he wasn't that person, I'll engrave all of the good memories into your soul. Stop living in the past and take a step towards tomorrow. So even if I do eventually leave, Beatrice, choose me. And like Emilia, her eyes finally see Subaru as she starts to call him by his actual name. Beatrice finally accepted that she had to stop looking back in the past or worrying about the future and start living in the present. Beatrice is an accurate representation of a lot of real people not being able to get over things in their pasts or worrying too much about the future. I mean, I was like that, man. A little life lesson to live in the present. Another thing that shows Subaru's faith in Beatrice was that despite the library generating more flames every second, he remained patient and repeated the things he said as much as they needed to be repeated. They also shared the loneliness factor. Sure, there are different circumstances, but both feelings share their similarities. One last thing about this scene, the library burning up is pretty evidently Beatrice's prison and burdens being destroyed slowly as Subaru kept on talking. Both the library and the blank tome of wisdom, leaving all of the last 400 years in the past. And with this, by finally relying on others for help, Subaru was successfully able to accomplish everything he wanted to without losing a single piece. And with this, in my opinion, this episode is the best episode of Re Zero. Not my favorite one, that's still Parent and Child, but the best. With the climax reached, the end of Season 2 was coming to an end. I love how my favorite moments from Re Zero are literally just pure dialogue. Shows to tell you how much words can do on their own without the need of flashy visuals and animation, which Re Zero does have as well. The last episode felt more like an additional episode to me. Obviously, it was flames though, but you know what I mean. We got to see Subaru arriving like a god. And this shit. We saw how Subaru used magic Oh my god, so pro. Totally not Beatrice, okay? Using big brain strats to kill the bunnies, we see how OP Emilia is. And in the end, we see how Beatrice uses Al-Shamak to finish them off and sends them to a forbidden space. What's this I smell? Is this foreshadowing? Then we get to see so many wholesome moments. Let's f***ing go, Young-soo. You deserve it, bro. We get to see Roswaal and Beatrice interact with each other, revealing things like Beatrice not knowing that Roswaal was using soul transmutation for the last 400 years. And a wholesome moment between the two, saying, "I'm home and welcome back." Both finally being able to move on without the influence of the Tome of Wisdom. And Beatrice's own way of getting over that person, which is not to become Subaru's number one, but to make Subaru her number one. That's so fucking cute. We later get to see Echidna's true face, which wasn't shown at all when they were showing the Sanctuary's past. Also, apparently Subaru does not remember Echidna anymore. I'm assuming it's because the barrier was lifted, but I'm still kind of confused on these two things. So if anyone knows, please let me know in the comments. Subaru and Emilia then sit down for a chat, and he notices that she's changed just with looking at her overall expression.
Emilia 変わったよね。なんか強くなった。
And damn it, the damn baby bait. I was like, what? Then everyone hits Roswaal. He shows his body with a curse to show his newfound resolve to not harm them, even though not everyone forgives him. He also later on tells Subaru that he will still be looking for a way to meet Echidna again by following Subaru. For some reason, I think this will bite them back in the future. Emilia obviously forgiving. This bitch is so damn forgiving, like, you go, girl. And then we get to see them crash another fam's mansion. Are y'all seeing these suits though? Young Gar looking slick. By the way, check out this Subaru lookalike, guys. Where could our orange tracksuited boy be? To finally finish off the video, let's talk about that final scene between Subaru and Emilia. I feel like a proud dad for both Subaru and Emilia, like, look at him, he looks so mature now. This shit was low-key their wedding, no cap. And when Subaru swore on his parents, bro, Emilia's expression changed as she heard that. She remembers Subaru saying that the woman he respects the most is his mother, so it shows how serious he is. The constant reminder of Subaru's parents really shows you how much of an influence they had on his growth. This episode was just so damn wholesome, man. Finally, we get to see our boy get a W for once. Emilia wanted to talk to Subaru in her room. He got in, boys. Both presumably about their parents and past, which Emilia fears that Subaru will change how he looks at her. But my boy's like, bitch, I swore on my parents that I love you. And he goes on to repeat that what's important is not what's in the beginning or in the middle, but in the end. You see what I'm saying here? And all of this is just part 2. How he got to this point, to the tiniest details in part 1 and season 1, is why Re Zero season 2 is a masterpiece in my opinion. And so, our boy Young-soo was able to prove that he was able to do it without sacrificing anyone. For now. Wait! Where's the season 3 announcement? Man, what a video. I had so much fun making this, and I hope it shows. By the way, Beatrice better be getting the attention she deserves. Represent, boys! Waiting 4 years and all of those delays was absolutely worth it, man. Hopefully it just doesn't happen again. I love Re Zero so much, it's not even funny anymore, like, oof. After the episode with Emilia aired, it became my favorite beating Hunter x Hunter. And I love my Hunter x Hunter, guys. That's how much I love this damn anime. If you're still watching the video, like I said, please like and comment what I asked you guys. Also, remember to check the description out and support the artists on these covers because they're really good, man. Those of you who commented on the Subaru video saying that Choose Me was going to be peak Re Zero, you were absolutely right, man. Anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video, and I'm probably gonna read the novel now. So as always, I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Don't do dumb shit, and stay cringy.